Bring in Doug Flutie, NBC Sports. He joins us now. Doug, we got a poll question. And if I said you could have Kurt Gibson's one at bat where he homered off Eckersley or Pablo Sandoval last night, let me change this. You could have your throw to Jared Phelan that helped you win the Heisman when you had that throw against Miami, or Kurt Gibson's at bat to beat the A's with Dennis Eckersley. What one would you take?
Now, that's a parallel because both of those are a one-time shot.
Yep.
I'll take mine because of my sport and all that. His was a bigger stage. His was bigger. His is a bigger stage. It's a World Series. It's winning a game. It's a guy that wasn't supposed to play, sitting in the dugout. He had to hit a home run because he couldn't even run. I mean, that was just amazing. That was unbelievable.
All right, tell me something about that throw against Miami that I haven't heard before.
Probably that the tight end was he was on the backside, was supposed to stay in protection. I realized they were going to be blitzing or bringing anything extra, so I walked over to him and said to go down the backside. I rolled right, intentionally hoping the defense might drift and was going to peek backside to the tight end. I had a guy running at me, so I just threw it for Gerard in the pile. The tight end's wide open all by himself about the 15-yard line going down the left side. If I had put my foot in the ground and drilled it to him, he might have gotten there.
So he would have scored the touchdown instead of Phelan.
Yeah, and the guy that should have been on the backside that would have taken that away had drifted across the field. The free safety was in position to make the field. The backside corner that drifted across jumped up, banged into the free safety, allowing the ball to go through to Gerard, and he catches it. So if the guy stays home and stays his responsibility, the free safety probably makes a play on the ball.
Wow. You know, I wanted to have you on for a couple of reasons, and one is I think there's still this cardboard cutout that we want with quarterbacks. You know, Russell Wilson went in the third round, and the only reason is because he's short. Certain guys, we still expect them to be. If you're not 6'2" or taller, then we really wonder if you can play the position. Why does that still exist in the NFL?
I would think after Drew Brees, it would not. I mean, Drew's 6 foot, and he barely gets there. But he measures, I guess, at 6 foot. So, I mean, is it really that big a deal if you're 5'11" or 6'1" or 5? I'm 5'10". I had some success. I had my share. Russell Wilson takes over a starting job. The reason it happens is it's job security. A lot of, if they draft a guy, if the GM drafts a guy 6'4" and he doesn't pan out, well, that's the kid's fault. The kid's got all the ability. I gave the guy the ability. If you draft a guy 5'10", 5'11", and he doesn't get it done, well, you should have known better. You should get fired. So I think it's more job security for GMs afraid to take what they see as a risk.
But it comes down to who can play. Russell Wilson has been a winner wherever he's gone. NC State, Wisconsin. He can be a field leader, general. I'm just amazed. There are guys who look the part but can't play the part.
I've seen 100 guys that look the part. Guys that can throw the ball 80, 85 yards. Guys with the biggest arms and maybe even athleticism. But they don't play the game. They get on the field and the blinders go on and they get a little nervous, whatever it might be. And there's certain guys that actually play better than they practice. There's guys that get on a field in a game situation. They understand clock management. They understand leadership. They know when to give up on a play and punt the ball, things that go into winning. And I'm going to say that it is probably more difficult to play the position at 6 foot and under. There's probably some things that come into play. I remember going down to the high school and visiting, and the kids wanted me to take a snap or two, and I jumped under center, and I dropped back, and I saw the whole field. And I thought to myself, this must be what it's like to be. Boy, the game would be so much easier at this height. So,
but how much did it help you? Because you play with a chip on your shoulder. You were ultra competitive. How much did not being the normal-looking quarterback factor into your success?
It made you over-prepare. It made you work harder every day in practice. Tim Dwight and I used to talk about it all the time. Tim was like 5'8", slot back, great punt return guy kind of similar to a Wes Welker style, but even faster. And Tim and I would go out with a chip on our shoulder every day in practice. And we bonded because of that. We were out there flying around because Coach Jack McNeil back in college said to me, Doug, you're going to have to prove you can play the game every day. And the big guy's got to prove he can't play the game.
He's Doug Flutie, NBC Sports, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. You got Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I'm still trying to figure out Notre Dame because I look, they're winning, winning with defense. They scored just enough points, kind of counterintuitive to what their coach is, was brought in for, but they're doing it. How good is Notre Dame?
They are defensively as good as anyone in the nation. They're a little suspect in the secondary, and they've got to do some. Bob Diaco's done an unbelievable job defensively with this group. He's the defensive coordinator of protecting his young corner. He's got a young freshman out on the field, and they are so good in the front seven that they don't have to get an eighth guy in the box, and they get the job done. And so defensively, they are stout. Offensively, they're a physical football team that can run the ball on just about anybody and keep them in the game, but they are not explosive. And Brian Kelly realized they're not the best team in the country. They aren't. But they keep themselves in ball games, and they've got the ability to win close games. That's what they've done so far this year. And Brian Kelly is getting everything he can out of this team. There's no doubt. They are in for a big test against Oklahoma.
Oh, I agree.
No doubt about it.
How does Manti Te'o win the Heisman?
They run the slate. They find a way to beat Oklahoma. They find a way to beat USC down the end of the wire, and he has a few more interceptions, and he gets invited to New York. But for a defensive guy to win it, defensive guy, he's got to return a few punts for touchdowns. Something like that. It just. For him to get to New York would be winning it.
Yeah, but he can't win it because he's not going to have stats. And you got a lot of these voters who don't watch games. They just want to see, put something in front of me that I can understand. Colin Klein to me is a Tebow-like from the standpoint of there's running numbers, there's passing numbers. He's probably a better runner than a passer. Your thoughts on how he wins the Heisman?
I agree with that. I think, again, it comes down to running the table and being the national hunt. He's there now, though. I mean, he's right there in the mix now. Now he's just got to keep winning. And he throws the ball a little more efficiently than Tebow. I mean, he's hit.
Yeah.
I was surprised, the last couple of years, all we've seen are 1-yard touchdown runs out of him. And now he's got some longer runs, and he's standing in there and throwing some post routes and a couple of balls over the top that look very impressive. I still, his mechanics are a little awkward, and he doesn't sling it like a Geno Smith, but he is efficient throwing a football.
What about Barkley is now the underdog story here?
Well, you lose a game, you don't throw up the flashy numbers for 1 week, and people forget about you. I mean, Geno Smith lost 2 football games in a row, and all of a sudden he's slid.
Well, he's done.
So I think, it just consistency over the long. Hey, it's a long season still, so you got to finish this thing out, and it rotates Matt Ryan was sitting there at 7-0, and they were talking about him in the Heisman hunt over at Boston College for quite a while. So that year, the top spot rotated every other week. So it can happen. He can get back in the mix. Just keep winning. Just, you roll through it, and all of a sudden you have a high-profile game beating Notre Dame at the end of the season, win your conference, maybe. It just, they've got some high-profile games with Oregon to go. What you do in the high-profile games really counts.
I know you're working with Dove. Why don't you give the audience an idea of what it is?
Well, it's the Dove Men Plus Care Journey to Comfort, and you can go to dovemencare.com. The Journey to Comfort basically is talking about that transition from football to fatherhood, of maybe having a little perspective in your life. And for me, being a father, whether it was coaching my daughter or being with my son and his challenges, it's all along of putting things in perspective, being comfortable in your own skin, and just going out there and not having to be so macho all the time and be that big football player. It's
is there a website? Is it that they can go to?
DoveMenCare.com or Dove Men Care on Facebook.
Good to visit with you as always, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Great talking to you, Dan.
All right, Doug Flutie.